Welcome back to Inside the Lines. Happy Monday. I'm your host, Mackenzie Brooks. Again, another full slate for you today. Some MLB playoffs, some college football to look into early, some NFL updates, some line movement, and of course, we have some A picks for you, some model and act now. So a very important show today to get your early lines, get on the look ahead. We're going to bring in John. We're going to talk some playoffs, Red October. We'll start there with the early game. Diamondbacks going back to Citizen Banks Park, a nightmare there. And you think the Phillies can get it done?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to go right back to the Phillies here. They haven't lost in the postseason at home yet this postseason. So, I mean, this is one of the hottest teams in the league. They really only needed to win one of 3 games on the road when they went to Arizona. And it took them a couple games, but they were able to accomplish that. They have Aaron Nola starting tonight. He has been absolutely dominant this playoffs. He didn't allow a run in his first start against the Diamondbacks. On the other side, they have Merrill Kelly going. He allowed 4 earned runs in 5 innings against the Phillies and gave up 3 home runs, 2 to Schwarber and 1 to Turner. So the Phillies bullpen is the main question, right? Everybody's wondering, how did Craig Kimbrell blow that save? What's going on there? Well, Craig Kimbrell has only blown 1 save in his entire postseason career, and it was that game. He actually had a longer streak to start his postseason career of saves than Mariano Rivera. So the Phillies bullpen is not a problem, and Craig Kimbrell is not a problem. He'll be just fine. I think the Phillies take care of business here. And if there's ever a time to lay the juice like this, it's in this exact situation.
Yes, a great, strong home team to bet on. We'll move over another switch. The Rangers now in Houston. We're back in the home team again here.
Yeah, Mackenzie, it's the 2 best words in sports, Game 7. And we finally get one in this MLB postseason because we haven't had one of these yet.
I know, they've been blowouts.
Exactly. A lot of games have been blowouts. Series haven't been going deep. We didn't even get one in the wild card series. There were 4 2-game series sweeps there. So finally get a big game, Game 7 to go to the World Series. And I mean, the main thing here is I've got to take the experience. And yes, Max Scherzer has experience. He's been in the spot. He's pitched a Game 7 of a World Series before, but he's in a different situation. He's coming off an injury. He's only made 1 start since the middle of September. He's very rusty. He gave up 5 earned in 4 innings the first time he faced the Astros, and a ton of the Astros have great numbers against him. On the other side, you have Christian Javier. He's given up, I believe it's 5 hits in his last 22 postseason innings pitched now. He finally allowed runs last game, only 2 though. And I think he's going to give the Astros 5, maybe even 6 great innings again. Yes, Brian Abreu could be out with his suspension, but the Astros actually have bullpen depth, whereas the Rangers have none whatsoever. They have their top 3 guys, and you can't really expect Scherzer to go 6-7 innings to bridge it to those guys in this game. You've got to find someone else to get in there. So I really like the Astros on the short money line. My heart's with the Rangers. I would like them to win, but you can't bet with your heart.
Right. Just as somebody not as experienced betting in MLB playoffs, when you look at a Game 7, how do you approach that from a betting standpoint? Like, what goes out the window? What factors more? How do you work with a Game 7?
Yeah, it's a great question. Steven was actually asking about this as well earlier and asking if the home road splits care in a Game 7. To me, it doesn't. I mean, you could look at the series and say that the road teams won every game, but at the same time, anything can happen in the postseason. And that's usually why I ride underdogs in general, especially if they're big underdogs. But this is just a completely different situation in terms of a massive starting pitching mismatch. And we've seen the Rangers have only been able to win behind their 2 horses in Montgomery and Eovaldi. So this situation is a little bit different, but in general, Game 7s, I like to lean the underdog.
Okay. Good to know. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Get to that point in the other series there. Derek bringing up a good point. As for Game 7s playing in home ballparks, they're only 62-63 all time in a winner-take-all situation. So, again, best of 7 series, you really don't know how it's going to go. Not very predictable. Mike giving Derek a hard time quick about Rams kicker prop. He had 3 field goal attempts, made 1. Really burned us there. That was brutal. But anyway, let's move on to some props quick for these games tonight. We'll go back to the Diamondbacks-Phillies game. I'll bring in Jake because he has some coming up next.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go with one of my first props, Johan Rojas, under 0.5 total bases. I think I've played it every game this postseason, and we're going to keep riding it. Rojas is in the lineup for his defense. He's not in there for his bat. He's not expected to hit whatsoever. If someone's on and he's up, he'll bunt them over. He's not in there for his bat. I believe it's 3 for 39 or 4 for 39 in the postseason. There
he had 2 hits going into the last game, and he had one hit down the first baseline.
Yep. So he has hits in each of his last 2 games, but if anything, I think he's more due to not get a hit again. And so at plus money, this is great value.
Right. All right, let's move over to another game. Jake has 2 props here as well, but you guys can start wherever you want here. Both on Alvarez today.
Yeah, you can go first, Jake.
We talked about this, that we love the matchup of Alvarez versus Scherzer. His fastball runs into his bat. He's I think he's 4 for 8 in his career off Scherzer with 3 walks, 0 strikeouts. So he sees the ball really well. He has .667 on base percentage in his career against Scherzer. So I'm on over half a run. We have him scoring in about .71 in our model. So about 70% of the time we have Alvarez scoring a run. So at plus 100, you're getting some good value. I just think he gets on base. It's up to the people behind him to knock him in. I don't mind. I think playing both over half a run and John's prop of over 1.5 total bases together, I think he hits at least one of those. So you're getting good value, and he could hit both of those easily.
Yeah, especially he could easily get walked at some point and be driven in as well. So I like that. I'm personally going with the 1.5 total bases. I love the run play as well. But he has the matchups. He's been as hot as possible, and he's hitting everything over the zone right now. So, I mean, I think you really can't go wrong with any Yordan Alvarez props right now, especially at plus money. And then the other one I like is Martin Maldonado, under 0.5 hits, runs, RBIs. It's minus 145. So I've been riding Martin Maldonado under total base props and hit, run, RBIs since last season. But a good way to get rid of the juice here is to, instead of going the under total base prop, you go with the under hits, runs, RBIs prop. And yes, he could get a sac fly, or he could get walked and moved around the bases to score, especially the top of the order coming up behind him. But it's definitely worth the juices. Usually when he gets hits, he gets multiple hits. So I really like the value on any Martin Maldonado under prop. And if the Astros are down in this game, he will likely get pinch hit for as soon as possible with Yainer Diaz. So I love that value.
Death, taxes, and Maldonado under half a hit. And then I like Christian Javier over 1.5 walks, especially since he didn't hit the number last game. I think it was like minus 180 for him over 1.5 walks in the last game. He only had 1 walk. The game before that, he had 5 walks. I think in 4 of his last 5 starts, he has multiple walks. The question is, how deep is he going to go? But that has to do with him walking guys. And some guys at the top of that order, like Evan Carter walks a ton. So he takes a lot of pitches. There's some guys in that order that take a lot of pitches. So I like, and Nate Lowe as well. I'd say Evan Carter and Nate Lowe. So there's no really easy out between those 2 guys. And I can see him walking both of those guys. So I like the over 1.5 walks here.
All right, good stuff there. No one does it like Jake and John. So we're going to move on to some college football. John, going to go into the chat. Of course, going to be answering any questions you guys have. Keep asking all of them. MLB, college football, NFL. We'll do it all. Before we get into some Act Now plays for college football, a line that Jake, you were talking about earlier today. Louisiana Tech, 3-point favorites hosting New Mexico State. And correct me if I'm wrong, but really this seems like a model type of play with people who base a lot of their stuff on historical data of New Mexico State. This line makes sense because of how poorly they played last year, but they've seen a lot of improvement. So it's kind of hard to use a model on a team like this.
Yeah, I think history is driving this line. If you look at La Tech, they've been a historically good program over the last 5-10 years, except for the last 2 years. And New Mexico State's been one of the bottom 10 programs in all of college football for the last couple of years, except they went to a bowl game last year, and they're 1 game away from a bowl game this year. Our model had, without any adjustments, we had La Tech -7. So I looked at this line, and I'm like, I'm surprised that New Mexico State's not the favorite, just watching both teams this year. And I would set the line at New Mexico State probably -2 or 3, given how they played this year. But I think models, including our model that use past data, are driving this in favor of La Tech. So I think even if La Tech wins, if you get New Mexico State +3, I think that's pretty good value. Steven just commented, New Mexico State was -12 per game on the road last year, but they're +3 this season. So it's a different team. Diego Pavia, he's in his second year as a starter, as the full-time starter. He's looked pretty good. And teams doing a 180 are not good for models.
Right.
And
that's
New Mexico State. Yeah. So, I mean, that's sometimes models really help you. And most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, we move in the direction of the line. Our model has value. But in this case, when there's two teams that are historically good or bad and they're flipped, that's where models could hurt you if you just look at the model.
Yes, we just want to show you guys, obviously it's great we have this model, but it's even better to have a team of people behind those numbers with human thoughts able to adjust and not just feed you guys, lines coming right out of a simulation, out of an AI. So just want to update you guys on that because it's something worth noting. Now let's go into a few lines you think are Act Now lines. We do have model value on most of these, but you think the steam will start to come in quickly. I saw Nick asking in the chat about this game with Army. You can get it 9.5, 10. We have them winning by 18.
Yes, this game is really interesting because the Army has scored 0 points over the last 2 games, but they played LSU, an SEC team, and they played Troy, who's one of the better defensive teams in the group of 5. So this is really interesting because I think their team totals at 29.5. We have them at 37. And it's interesting because they've scored 0 points the last 2 weeks, and we still like their team total over, and we like them to win. So, I mean, if you throw away those 2 games against LSU and Troy, I think Army would probably be around -20 in this game. And, I mean, I think that they bounce back this week. And UMass is really bad against the run, like Nick said. And I think Army, with their triple option, they'll be able to do whatever they want. LSU and Troy, they have the talent level to defend the run every single play. I don't think UMass does. So we have Army -18. I like that.
Yeah, Steven was saying how UMass lost to 62 by Penn State, so we're looking to fade them again as always.
Yeah, we had Penn State -58 in that game, so that was nice. And then Boston College, UConn, that line's already moving from -12 all the way up to -13 in some places, but you could still get -12. Boston College, they're 4-3 this season, and since Castellanos has taken over at quarterback, they've looked pretty good. They won at home against Georgia Tech last week. They've looked pretty good, and UConn is trending downwards while Boston College is trending up. I think this line moves closer to 2 touchdowns. I think it probably closes at around 14. So, I mean, our model has 14 here. So if you could get it right now before it goes any higher, and that key number of 14, I'd get Boston College.
And then SMU, a team that showed up big last weekend, now playing Tulsa. You want to get that before that key number around 21 as well.
Yeah, we recommended SMU at, I think, 1 point -18 last week, and it closed at -24 against Temple. And a lot of that had to do with Kurt Warner's son, EJ, being out. But you still got plenty of value there, and I think you're getting plenty of value here. I think this closes at probably 21 points. So if you get it beforehand, I'd grab it. Tulsa's not very good. SMU has a huge talent advantage. Preston Stone's a decent quarterback, but they have 3 Power 5 transfer running backs on their roster. So I think SMU should take care of business here. I'd get it as early as possible.
Right. Another big spread that we still like, App State laying 17.5 right now versus Southern Miss.
If the line moved from 17 to 17.5, we have App State -24. App State's looked bad the last couple of games, but those games were on the road. They're a much better team at home. Southern Miss lost 52-3 to Southern Alabama. They're not a good team. I think this line could go anywhere from -18 to -20, 21 by the time it closes. So I think you're getting good value if you get App State earlier than later. As Steven said, it's -18.5 in plenty of spots, so it's moving. And I think it's going to move even more.
One college football question in the chat about thoughts on Colorado, UCLA. It looks like we have UCLA winning 40-21, a little bit of value on the under there, but any personal thoughts, Jake, on that game?
Yeah, it's 2 really interesting teams because UCLA has a freshman quarterback. Colorado blew a 29-point lead at home in their last game against a not good Stanford team. So, I mean, we have a slight lean on UCLA. I think the line is pretty spot on, 17.5. I'd probably stay off and maybe live bet because last time Colorado played, we saw that Stanford ran the same play every single time. They ran the slant with Minor, or whatever his name is, and he had 13 catches for almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against Colorado. So if UCLA finds that one play that Colorado can't defend, I would live bet the heck out of UCLA.
All right. Yeah. Good to know. We like the live bet options. And again, more value picks will come through the week. I'm going to give Jake a break here. We're going to move on to some NFL with Steven. Steven, a few games we weren't able to mention yesterday because of Monday Night Football that we can now. Patriots back in Miami. The look-ahead line was 12, and as we predicted, it's now closed a little bit, now 10.5-point favorites, but you think the steam will continue to come in on New England?
Yeah, I'm seeing a 10 as well. So, doesn't take a rocket scientist to see the pattern of Miami's offense. They really punch down. If you can't stop them, they will obliterate you. But the teams including New England early in the year, whoever, is familiar with them and has the defensive schemes, they can keep the offense to those 24 or less. So I think if the big thing is if you're a big believer in Miami long-term, and with Buffalo fading, you might want to wait, because if Miami doesn't cover or wins by, say, only 6 or 7, and this team doesn't, say, put up more than 23, 24 points, then they're going to go, their odds to win the advance or win the Super Bowl are going to, go up to like plus 1,500, plus 2,000, and they get a lot of value. So again, I would actually let the steam on them that from the early part of the year come back down, and then play them there if you like them.
Right. Let's move to the Philadelphia Eagles coming off a great night, repping the sweater today. Okay. They opened up as 5.5-point favorites originally on the look ahead. Now they're 6.5-point favorites. It seems like this total is now 45. Do you see any value here early in the week?
Yeah, I think you have to get it before it goes to 7. Philadelphia actually didn't play that well. The turnovers was the only reason why Miami probably scored more than 3. And so I think Philly, and they had a lot of injuries, and in the secondary didn't matter. So, and Washington's kind of given up. I think we're projecting a ridiculous 6 sacks. So 6 sacks is an average projection. That means there's simulations where there's like 7, 8, 9 sacks. Sam Howell's getting sacked at an historic rate, and everyone seems to be fed up with the coaching staff on both sides of the ball.
Right. Another guy I got burned on, but you didn't. You got Sam Howell over 14.5 rushing yards. I got him at 15.5 because I was being lazy and went against everything we said.
You didn't act now.
I digress. We moved. Gotta act now. Speaking of some act now, let's go over 2 act now plays. We talked about it a little bit last night on the Sunday look ahead show, but the Ravens we still have as an A pick. Look ahead line was around 7.5. It's now still going towards Baltimore. You think you have to get this line before it gets any more out of hand? Yeah,
it's 8.5 and 9. So I think the model has it all the way at 11 again. And I've been watching, partly for my own enjoyment, I've been watching all the national media, talk about how great Lamar Jackson is, just 2 days after everyone picking Detroit to win. But not us. We actually had value on Baltimore, FYI. This is a line that could go to 10. Just because anyone with a stat model is going to look at it as like, oh geez, Baltimore has been down. I want to say they've been down for less than 5 minutes this season, in their games, probably, right. And they've just been dominating teams ridiculously, especially to start games. Arizona's strength this year has been starting games well and then fading late. So I don't think that's going to last. So if you have the combination of Baltimore starting well and Arizona fading, it could get out of hand.
Mm-hmm. Let's go another act now and A pick. The Seahawks laying 2.5 at home. You think this is something you should get on now? Also, by the way, our survivor pick, we still stay alive through week 7. Big things for the Seahawks.
And I'm feeling good against with Dallas with the Rams at home for this week. Seattle, if it's 2.5, we saw Deshaun Watson play terribly and then get a likely concussion. They did have a thrilling comeback against Indianapolis, but, you have to be worried that the Browns defense is not historically good. It's not historically great. They gave up, 38 to Indianapolis. The Colts are running well against them, and including Gardner Minshew. So 2.5 spread is implying that, this is an even matchup. And Seattle, I think, is a better team. They didn't put up a ton of points, but they won 20-10, and Jackson Smith and Jigba had a big game, and Jake Bobo had a big game and a spectacular catch. So now all of a sudden they're not this, 2 receivers and they have 4 legit receiving targets. And I think that Cleveland will either have a Deshaun Watson who's still hurting and is not good deep balls. And I don't know what the weather's like in Seattle, but this is this time of the year where it can start getting sloppy. And Cleveland's defense is not historically great.
Right. Before we hit the recap screen, I just wanted to share one note quick. Another A pick we have on Sportsline Model with Kansas. We have them projected to win 31-17. Again, Broncos defense really not looking much better. Holding the Green Bay Packers is nothing impressive. Kansas offense is looking great. So more analysis on that through the week. Just wanted to get another A pick out there for you guys.
And this is one of the rare occasions, sorry, Mackenzie, where the line seems to be going away from where the model is. It's down like 7.5 in a lot of spots, which I have to look into why, because again, Denver shouldn't get credit for holding Green Bay scoreless in the first half because Green Bay doesn't score in the first half.
Not necessarily an act now, but just great value there. A couple of great A picks on the site for the Sportsline Model this week. So we'll have a lot to talk about. I'll hit a little recap screen for you guys right now. Again, Jake's 4 college football picks you'd want to get on before the steam starts coming in. Again, the Ravens minus the 8 and the Seahawks minus the 2.5. Plays you want to get early before things get out of hand. So with that said, that's all we have for today. We'll be back tomorrow with updated lines, more digging, more deep dives, some recaps, and we have some NBA coming up. This is where we thrive, this team. This team loves early NBA season. This is where we can make you guys some money. So we got more coming for you guys. Good luck with your bets. Good luck with Monday Night Football, and we'll see you tomorrow.